So how to use the grid? Very important, important subject, right? And to my surprise, a lot of people that I run to that have been in the industry for a long time, sometimes they complicate this part. So I want to help you to think about the grid in a very simple way. And for this, I'm going to use a script that it increases the grid step by half and divides by half when I use the bracket keys. So I go from 1. If I go lower, I'm gonna go half to that, so half meters. And then if I go lower again, I go to 0.25 and 0.125 and on and on. So now if we go up, we go double. So 0.125, 0.25, 0.5, 1, 2. So what's the double of 2? 4. What's the double of 4? 8. So this is called a grid of like a power of 2. And if you're in Maya, you can if you go to the extras folder, Maya scripts, there is instructions on how to install this hotkey. And if you're in Blender or Max, I'm sure there is a similar script to change the grid step. But the operation is very simple. I'm just dividing the grid step by half or multiplying by 2 to go up and to go down. And you really want to have a hotkey like this, so you're able to change the grid on the go when you're working here. This is essential to make sure that you work in a flexible way. And why not use a grid of 5 instead of 4? Like I've seen some people use a grid of 5, and I'll show why I'm not a huge fan of that. So a grid of 5 would look like something like this. No. Yes. So a grid of 5, like we start at 5 meters, right? So if you go up, we go to 10, 50, well, it will go to 15 and 20. Not a big deal, right? But when you go lower, that's when it starts to get annoying, because now you start to get fractional numbers. So if you're on a grid of 4 meters, it would go from 4 to 2 to 1. But on a 5, you go from 5 to 2.5 to 125 to 0.625, 0.31. You know, it gets very broken. And the more you divide, the longer the number gets. This is extremely annoying, So for this reason, I recommend to just use a grid of 4. Like, you're gonna save a lot of headaches. Look how much cleaner the numbers are. You go from 8, 4, 2, 1, 0.5, 0.25. You see, like, even at this low step, the number is still easy to remember. So how do we match the grid from Maya to Unreal? Very, very easy. First, we need to make sure we are using the correct scale. So in Maya, you go to settings and make sure you're in linear, or go to settings, and where you see linear, you work in meter. So let's make 4x4 cube and export this. So now that we are in Unreal, how do we make sure we are gonna match the same settings that we have in Maya? So go to go to Editor Preferences and search for Grid. And when you see the decimal grid sizes, you have the numbers here. So it's like 1 meter, 4 meters, 60 meters. So 50 centimeters, 25, and now these are gonna match what we have. But there is an option to, let me just double check. Okay, so yeah, sorry, it's been a long time since I set this up, so I didn't really remember how I did it. But if you go to decimal grid sizes, you can change I think those were in a grid of 5 before. So I changed it to match my grid of 4. And remember, they are in centimeters. So 400 is like 4 meters. So 400. So whatever you do here, decimal grid sizes, is the numbers you're gonna get here. This option, use power of 2, is gonna make you use like 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. So this is an option too, but then you're still gonna be missing the smaller ones, but you can just do this by hand. So now when we drop that cube, let me go somewhere here. In the import settings, you need to make sure that you have convert scene if you're exporting from Maya, the way I'm doing. But if you're doing from Blender or Max, you might have to experiment with these settings here to make sure that you're on the same scale. So import this guy. And now I know that whenever I have the grid enabled, if I have 4 meters, they should match. Always. So if I go to 1 meters, I know that 2 is gonna be there. Yeah, so that's the main reason to use a grid of 4. And that's how you can match them. And now they're synced. So I know that anytime, any kind of step that I use here, I'm gonna be able to snap perfectly in Unreal. Even if I make a small piece like this, I know I can just use the correct grid size in Unreal, and those are gonna match.